Hi, and welcome to the Leader's Edge, our weekly live interview show where Georgia Donaldson and I, Emily Chiwa, feature successful CEOs and professionals who are so kind to share their stories with us. We want to bring you awareness, inspiration, and leadership tips so that you can action them to help you sharpen your competitive advantage and make a positive impact in your organization and community. Remember, if you are watching us live, you can leave a comment on LinkedIn if you want to ask a question. So, good morning, everyone. Today's
Hey, good
topic,
morning, Emily.
morning, Georgia, morning. And today's topic is heart smart leadership. We all know the spiel on emotional intelligence, which was made popular by Daniel Goleman in 1995 when he published his book based on his research, where he talks about the key components of EQ: self awareness, motivation, empathy, self regulation, social skills. But, Georgia, in our discussions with people, in our training sessions, in our practical experience with leading teams, what does this all mean practically? What does it all
Yeah.
mean practically? What does it mean to lead with your heart? Does it mean that you are soft? Does it mean that you don't address the issues, don't take on the hard conversations, do you let things slide?
Mm-hmm.
And do women lead more with heart than men do? That might be true or it may not be true, but I'm curious as to what you think. So, as you bring awareness to some of these matters, I'm hoping that we are piquing your interest in terms of what does leading with heart mean and what is emotional intelligence in relation to all of this, why the heart. So, leading with heart, what is
Yeah.
that?
Emily, it's Monday morning and you're asking some hard questions at 7 a.m. on a Monday. So you're asking us, Emily, to talk to you, to tell you about what's practical about this, about leading with heart. What does leading with heart mean? You also threw something in there. Do women lead with heart more than men? That's a real tricky one. But when I think about it, Emily, and in my own experience and in my own work, I'm thinking that once we start talking about heart, it means we're thinking about people. I know we live in this AI world, and we're living in a world now where machines are taking over, doing much more than previous years. The last 20 years, we weren't talking about AI, and we weren't talking about machines and robots so much, but we still are in the people business. And once we're in the people business, we're thinking about these people and we're thinking about the impact of our decisions, not only on the business and on the machines, we're thinking about the impact of our decisions on the people. And once we're thinking about that, it means we're thinking from the heart. It means we're making decisions for the people. And it doesn't mean that we're not doing it practically. We're not using numbers. We're not using analytics. It means that we're doing both things. It means that we're not focusing just on the head and we're not focusing only on the heart, but it's how do we marry those two when we're making our decisions?
Right. So the first thing then, when you think about leading with heart, is you think about people. So you
Yes.
include the impact of
Mm-hmm.
your decision on it, how it impacts the other
Of
persons,
course,
in
without a
the
doubt.
and
Yeah.
not just the employees, but all the persons, the customers,
Yeah. Yeah.
the entire network, if you want,
Yes.
in
All the
terms of how
stakeholders.
all the stakeholders,
Mm-hmm.
so that
Yeah.
you can think of that. Because sometimes I think we might get too overruled by
Mm-hmm.
trying to make a number,
Yes.
and not realize what we really need to do or how we
Mm-hmm.
need to get there,
Right.
what influences that we have to make, or how do we bring people along when we are trying to make
Mm-hmm.
a number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, so even if the number is to cut something,
If
you
it
know,
is to cut, yes. And you may have to cut.
hmm
But what are the steps along the way in cutting? Do you
hmm
cut forgetting that they're people?
hmm
Yes. How do you do that? And you asked another thing. You said, what does it mean that you're soft when you think about leading with
hmm
heart? And I can distinctly remember there are some times in my own leadership journey when I was thinking with the heart, of course, using my head as well. But when I was thinking with the heart, that's when it became so much harder, because you want to please people with the numbers. You want to make sure that you're meeting the bottom line. And when you think of, leading with the heart, sometimes people feel that you're not going to meet the bottom line because you're thinking with the heart. But
Mm-hmm.
it's how you manage, how you marry both, how you strike that delicate balance. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I had that experience on both sides. I
Mm-hmm.
think like when I now started off as in leadership,
Yes.
and I don't know, I assume it's the same with most people, you kind of get thrown into a position where some people report to you and like, what? The first time when it first happened, and I didn't know this at the time, but when I did the disc the first time, I was
Mm-hmm.
a very strong D, right?
Ah, okay.
Extremely, and emotions just didn't factor into my
Mm-hmm.
brain when it came to work. It was work.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I think I learned that lesson along the way as to how to,
Mm-hmm.
be more aware of how I'm feeling and how other
Right.
people are feeling. And I think leading with the heart also is a sense of understanding those emotions,
Mm-hmm.
yours
Yes.
and others. That's why self-awareness is there, and the social impact in terms of how you interact, the
Mm-hmm.
relationships that you have with people and how you create those, and how you maintain.
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, for me, yeah, work was work. So task, task, task. And then I think I swung the pendulum, and I actually had at some point in my journey as a leader, one of my managers telling me, Emily, I think you're too soft.
Ah, there you go.
What? I'm
So,
confused.
so you had this pendulum swing, you're
I had
saying?
I had the pendulum swing where I
Yes.
was probably getting, like you said, maybe a little
Mm-hmm.
too. I took it a little too far, and it was
Mm-hmm.
um I got. I don't know. I mean, I think I still, when I look back at those times, I think I was being fair, but
Okay.
maybe the what was expected, or what my managers were expecting, was
Mm-hmm.
was different from what I was
Okay. Okay.
experiencing on
So,
the
so
floor.
they may have been looking for the more practical and the more analytical side coming out. And you
Well,
may
I
have been
think
focusing more on the more emotional and relational side.
Yeah, well, I think I was concerned about the people a lot,
Yes.
because it was
Yes.
a lot of change, and I was
Yeah.
feeling it on the ground in terms of
Mm-hmm.
what we were asked to do.
Yeah.
And I was trying to help them manage through the change. And so sometimes, yes, the practical was there, but
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes they felt like, I could have been maybe more firm. I
Okay.
thought the film might have been harsh. So
Uh,
I was having a trouble in terms of how I could
yes.
balance that. How I could
Yes,
balance
yes.
that.
I've been down that road. I've been
Yeah,
down that road.
yeah,
Yeah. And let me tell you something. Sometimes too, when you're in those situations, you may have a mentor, someone who you can go to, who is a person who, hey, bounces off them. This is what I'm facing, and this is the response I had. What do you think? How could I have done it differently? And it's just like us as leadership coaches, when our clients come to us and they have these issues. Because I can remember one earlier this year had that challenge of balancing her leadership,
yeah,
because she didn't want to seem as if she was the patsy. Everybody is saying, oh, you can run over her, you can tie up, around your fingers. But then she was very effective as well as a practical analytical person. So there were points in time when she, as you had said earlier, she was on one whole side of the pendulum, and she was having a difficulty moving across the other side,
yeah,
or making that swing as balanced as possible.
yeah.
And, somehow I think today's talk, it's almost like an ode to Dr. Kirsten Ferguson's book,
Mm,
called Head and Heart: The Art of Modern Leadership. Because in her book, she talks about this. She talks about that balance. How are
yeah,
you making sure that as a leader, you're focusing on the people, the emotional side, the relationships, but also not forgetting that as a leader, you have to be practical and you have to be analytical. Because when you're making decisions for the business, but you're also making decisions with people in mind. Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to belabor that point a little bit, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's partly why I'm so passionate about coaching and doing the
Yes.
work that we do,
Yeah.
because I feel like, I did not have that. opportunity to have like someone.
Mm-hmm.
So yes,
Right.
you have mentors, and yes, you have, and maybe you do, and maybe you don't. I mean, I remember one of our guests last week saying, I don't think I'd have called someone and said, "Well, you are my mentor." But yes,
Right.
people we bounce
Of
ideas off them.
course.
We use and they become like a mentor to us, whether it's formal or not. Like in
Yes. Mm-hmm.
conversations. But I think coaching also does that.
Mm-hmm. It
That
certainly does.
part of supporting
Mm-hmm.
people and understanding, how to make the shifts,
Mm-hmm.
help them become more aware and to open up the perception
Mm-hmm.
so that you can understand the impact of their actions or the impact of their thinking or even
Mm-hmm.
the impact of their emotions on situations, because of course
Yes.
the emotions color what we see, and whether we acknowledge the emotions or not is what I love to talk about. It is
Yes.
coloring what we see, so when we
It's
pretend they're
true.
not there, but it's still affecting us you
Yes,
know
it is. It is.
so, so
Mm-hmm.
important to recognize that that it is there, those emotions are there and they are impacting, so deal with them so
Deal with
that we
them. Mm-hmm.
can put on, a more balanced view.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. You know, Emily, I may be a broken record when I keep saying to people throughout my own journey, my leadership journey, that I'm the product of mentorship and I'm the product of coaching because I had women and I had, maybe two or three CEOs and GMs who saw something in me and who invested in me, and they helped and they guided me along the way. So when they saw that I was leaning to one side too much or leaning to the other side too much, they'd give me tips and examples of how to balance that leadership. And that's what has, helped to make me as successful as I am today. And so what
Yeah,
we're saying to leaders is don't be afraid to lead with your heart and don't be afraid to lead with your head. Understand the situations when which is required. And the thing is, how are you making that balance?
yeah,
How are you impacting and making decisions without forgetting the people and also without forgetting the business as well,
yeah.
because it is a balance. Yeah.
And the third thing in terms of leading with heart that I think we
Mm-hmm.
should leave people with is, so you mentioned one of the authors, one of the books that
Yes.
I really admire, Brene Brown's work.
Right.
And yeah, she does a lot of work in this space as well.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the quotes that I use all the time for myself and with my clients is to be clear and kind. So that thing
Clear and
about not,
kind.
yeah, so that thing about how not to be soft
Yes.
is to be clear and kind. So,
Right. Well, what does that
if you're
really
being
mean, Emily? What does that really
kind, so
mean?
if you're being soft, good. I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad you asked,
Yeah.
Georgia. So if you're being soft, you are not necessarily being clear.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have to deliver bad news or negative
Yes.
news or pull someone up, you
Mm-hmm.
might say it in a way that's a little fluffy. It's a little
Yeah.
wishy-washy. That
Yes.
is not direct enough so that they understand that this thing needs to,
Mm-hmm.
be addressed, needs to be changed.
Right.
It's not acceptable. The words we use are not clear enough, and the way in which we put the message across not direct
Mm-hmm.
enough. So my struggle when I was told I was soft is that I felt if I had to be clear, it was going to be harsh.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why clear and kind is so
Mm-hmm.
important, right? So
Yes.
kindness is the intention behind how you're going to, what you're going to say, the
Mm-hmm.
energy behind it. So I think when people think that they are, or even when I did, if I'm telling you directly what is happening or what is how what you are doing is affecting the team or whatnot in a
Mm-hmm.
negative way, it felt harsh. Is because I was too worried about your hurting your feelings.
Yes.
I'm not thinking of the bigger picture, which is, but I'm your manager. I'm supposed
Mm-hmm.
to help you improve yourself. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
supposed to also be there for the team, like to ensure that the team is working effectively. So if I am not being clear and kind with you, I'm
Yes.
actually hurting all of us, you, the team, and myself.
And myself. Yes. Yes.
So learning how to be mindful about how I was looking at that. It's not I'm not hurting you. I'm not hurting you. I'm helping you. And then finding the words
Mm-hmm.
and expressing it in a way even stating like my intention is to make sure that we all do XYZ and we get where we need to go and blah
Mhm.
blah blah. So being very clear about the intention also can can
Yes.
assist in how the message is received. Yeah.
Right, right.
So
Emily, to bring it home, I thought of, let's give a practical example of your organization going through some change. You're introducing some new technology. And at the end of the day, that technology is going to help you to be much more effective. So, in the bottom line, financially, you're going to look better. Instead of focusing just on the financials and moving through that change process, just crunching numbers, getting the machine or the equipment in, getting the technology in, and forgetting about people. Leading with heart means you're going to involve the people in that decision. So it doesn't mean they're going to make the decision for you, but it means you can have forum. You can have your huddles. You talk about it. What's the impact is going to be on you as the individual, on the organization, on the way you do things, and get feedback from people. You never know the goal that you will mine when you involve people in it. So that's simply what it is. When you're leading with heart, it means that you're involving people, you're thinking about people. They're not necessarily making the decision for you, but it says that you're thinking about them as well. So not
yeah,
just the dollars and cents.
yeah, and asking them questions,
Mm-hmm.
being mindful of what the change, how the change impacts how they do
Yes.
their jobs. Because
Yes.
a lot of times people feel that changes, and sometimes, in fact, it happens where
Mm-hmm.
changes that are supposed to actually improve efficiency seems to make particular jobs less efficient.
Mm-hmm.
So asking questions and listening to the feedback, because we are not the persons doing all the steps, right?
Yes.
Literally putting in the information, like doing all the steps. So seeing how we could involve them in
Mm-hmm.
even
Yes.
improving in how the change is made,
Mm-hmm.
taking into consideration their
Yes.
feedback. And sometimes we are just so we might get so carried away, as you say, by the time
And caught up. Yes.
and the cost element, that we're not thinking of how do we bring the people along to get
Mm-hmm.
the buy-in, enough of
There
the
it.
buy-in and the momentum,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
and
We're thinking about
allowing
the dollars and not remembering the sense behind it, the
this
sense of
sense
why we're doing it.
exactly,
Yeah.
and not allowing ourselves to listen to feedback, because sometimes I think most of us, right, when we get feedback, sometimes we receive it negatively,
Mm-hmm.
feel like these people are putting roadblocks in our way
Right.
instead
In your
of
way. Mm-hmm.
so trying to see how as a leader we can actually listen
Mm-hmm.
and see what is behind what they're saying, and
Yes.
get to the get see if we can get
Yeah.
good intent behind
Good. In-
all of the all that is going on, so that we can really figure out how to work together
mm-hmm.
in a way
Mm-hmm.
that allows for the change
Yeah.
to be effective.
Two things that I think that you'll get out of it for leading with heart is loyalty. You're going to get that team loyalty. And the
Yeah,
other thing is resilience.
yeah,
So if you think of nothing else, think of two things that you will get from leading with heart. And of course balancing with head. But you're gonna have that loyalty and you're gonna be building resilience in your team. So
yeah.
why not start today? Why not start today, Emily? Yeah.
Yes. So that's the call. That's the call,
Mm-hmm.
people, to action this week is how can you bring more heart into your work this week? And into
Mm-hmm.
even into your life. I'm assuming you have the heart in the life, but I mean sometimes
Yes.
we get so again into our routines and whatever. We just
Mm-hmm.
like you need to do X, you need to do Y, da 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 da. And you just go in. So curious, how do you get more heart into
Mm-hmm.
work and life this week? And balance. So
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that just because we say leading with heart does not mean you forget about your head.
No, certainly not. Certainly not. And it's just talking about relationships.
Yes,
Think about one work relationship that you want to change this week. You want to
yes,
improve, you want to impact. Yeah. How can you tackle that with some heart this week? Think about it. So we're leaving you with lovely homework for this week.
yes. So
Emily, a pleasure
it's always
as
a pleasure,
usual.
Georgia.
Yes.
I hope that this has impacted persons in a positive way, and looking forward to the feedback.
Yeah.
Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Bye.